The Islamic Republic is a barbaric, corrupt regime that has murdered, imprisoned, and terrorized its own people for decades. As the daughter of Iranian immigrants who fled this regime, I know personally what its violence means. At the same time, as an American Congresswoman who swore an oath to the United States Constitution, I am deeply concerned by President Trump's decision to launch an illegal war, because it is in fact illegal, against Iran without congressional authorization and without presenting a clear plan to the American people.
That was Arizona Representative Yasamin Ansari, the first Iranian-American Democrat in Congress. The Iranian regime has persecuted members of her own family. We sat down for a conversation about her complicated feelings about the war and her hopes and fears for Iran's future. So let's go back. February 28th. The war starts. What were you thinking? How did you hear? What was your first reaction?
It was just a weird feeling of something you knew was going to happen, but the uncertainty of what comes next was quite heavy. And I immediately called my parents, and I knew it was like 2 or 3 a.m. for them in Phoenix, but I called them, and the next few days were really tough. It had the first week or two, honestly, were very, very heavy. I think, a lot of pressure from the standpoint of, somebody who's grown up with wanting to see change in Iran, positive change, a better future for the people of Iran. But in my role as a U.S. Congresswoman, knowing very well what we're dealing with in a President Donald Trump, and knowing that there is no plan or clear objectives for what the war is about, had a lot of anxiety and mixed feelings.
And your parents, they effectively fled the regime.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad was here as a student, couldn't go back. Mm-hmm. Your mom left.
My mom was 16 or 17 years old when she was forced to flee. Women were losing their rights, and so my grandfather had been supportive of the monarchy before it fell, and so he was briefly imprisoned, and that's when they decided to send my mom here by herself. Stories I've heard are that she was extremely depressed, lost a ton of weight, was here by herself, living with a family, and they've gone back over the years, but especially as I've gotten more into politics, pretty much 18 years old onward, the possibility of going back diminishes.
And what was their reaction when they heard that Ayatollah Khamenei had been killed?
I think everybody's reaction, including my parents, to that news is joyful. Not a classic joyful, right? Because you're talking about somebody's death, but there's a feeling of hope that comes with it. Like maybe now something can happen. Maybe now, this is the beginning of the end. I think immediately they are worried about, their concerns have always been Iran balkanizing essentially, and the borders of the country changing, because there are so many different ethnicities and groups, and not all, good actors and interests around Iran, but also that it could become a failed state. And if this isn't managed carefully, a country of 90 million people could very well fall into civil war. And I think that has been their concern from the beginning, and my concern as well.
This is obviously a very challenging time. There's a war going on, but is there a hope that at the end of this, that what comes next will be better?
This has actually caused a lot of internal strife within the community. A lot of families, my own family at the Thanksgiving dinner table, there were a lot of debates about whether or not people should be hopeful, what the right thing is to do. Mm-hmm. I will say there are many people who are, who feel that there was no other way to weaken this regime than outside military intervention. The people don't have the weapons, the regime has the weapons, and they will happily massacre as many people as they can to stay in power. Then I think there's another camp, and I think that camp of folks, feels that they really actually do believe that Donald Trump has a good plan here and has positive intentions. And that's real. I don't agree with that. There's another camp that I think is very anti-war and believes that bombs are not going to free people. There's people who are within the diaspora and Iranians who just who want something hopeful to hold on to and are trying to now steer this in the right direction. We're already in this war, so what can be done? And I've been thinking a lot about that. Ultimately, I do think we need an off-ramp quickly to the war. We need to de-escalate. I, just want to see the best for Iranian people who have had to live under this regime for the last 47 years.
Our thanks to Congresswoman Ansari.